Ryan Reynolds. His latest move is desperate. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. One of the substantial advantages of my work, alongside the fact that you get to hear the chocolatey, velvety tones of your glorious narrator, is that it provides you with knowledge to understand what you are dealing with. Those of you who have had an involvement with a narcissist will know that to begin with, you really didn't understand what was going on. Not only did you not know you were dealing with a narcissist, but the behaviours of this individual were mystifying, confusing and bamboozling. Once you started to understand what they were, you began to piece together what that meant. I have helped millions of people understand and remove the fog of confusion, the clouded mind, the emotional thinking, to see clearly what's in front of them. This provides massive gains for individuals with regards to cutting the narcissist out of their life, keeping them out of their life, and achieving the freedom that they deserve. But it's not just in relation to people's personal circumstances that the fixing of this knowledge of what you're dealing with proves so useful. It is also extremely helpful with regard to understanding other people in the world. On numerous occasions, my clients, after I've helped them, have explained, I now see so much more about how the world works more clearly because I can see the impact and influence that narcissists have upon my world and the world in general. Accordingly, when I undertake an analysis of somebody through the Tudor scope and we find out what they are, this then enables us to interpret their behaviours through the prism of their narcissism. Because as I make it clear time and time again, and will continue to make it clear time and time again, when a narcissist is dealing with another person or contemplating dealing with another person, it is governed by their narcissism. Nothing else. It is the narcissism that rules their actions, what they say, their decision-making. Accordingly, when you've perhaps in the past looked at that pop star and thought, why on earth did they make that dumb-ass move that has caused their career to implode? Having established that they're a narcissist, you realise they were seeking to assert control in the moment without any due concern for the collateral consequences thereafter. Many famous people are narcissists because their narcissism wants them to become famous because it provides them with such advantages, and by being a narcissist it actually smooths the path to becoming famous. When it comes to Ryan Reynolds, we have the ongoing battle that's taking place between him and his wife and Justin Baldoni and his team. If you have not already watched my analysis of Ryan Reynolds, I would encourage you to do so. Not only will it inform you about narcissism, but it'll help you understand why he is what he is, and you'll then realise that he is a narcissist. And through my work, you'll understand what that means. And you'll also understand what type of narcissist he is, which is very important. By having established, after looking at considerable amounts of evidence, that Reynolds is a narcissist, we can now look at the things that he does through the prism of that narcissism. For the purpose of this video, I'm not including the actions of Blake Lively because she is continuing to be scrutinised, and therefore I don't want to spoil the outcome in that regard. So I'm going to be talking about it from the perspective of what Reynolds is up to. The use of litigation is relatively common with narcissists. This is for two fundamental reasons. Often the narcissist will not behave themselves. They will not make payment when they're due to do so. They won't abide by child custody arrangements. They won't return property. They won't respond when you make a demand for something. They won't answer to a complaint about what they've done, which means that invariably the other person is forced to go to law to make the narcissist do what is necessary. I regularly explain to people, rather than waste time trying to persuade the narcissist, of whose innate need for control will just reject your overtures nearly all of the time, if you have a cause of action and you have the evidence to support it and the means of funding an action, go to court, get it done promptly, and then you'll get your outcome. Thus, the narcissist is often dragged into litigation because of their need for control, causing them not to do what they ought to be doing. The second aspect is that narcissists often use the legal process themselves as a means of an assertion of control. Certain narcissists are wealthy, and they're able to hire high-powered and effective lawyers, in effect as hired guns, to do their bidding to assert control over other people. We are seeing an example of this with Ryan Reynolds. The litigation that he is involved in represents both of those issues that I've explained. He is using the litigation as a means to assert control over Justin Baldoni and other parties, and at the same time, he has been drawn into litigation instituted by Justin Baldoni and other people as a consequence of the way that he has behaved. I've explained in the analysis about Reynolds the various heads of claim that have been launched against him, which relate to defamatory behaviour, in effect a conspiracy to destroy the career of Justin Baldoni, a breach of contract, or rather looking to institute a breach of contract with regard to causing the publicist that would act on behalf of Baldoni to no longer act for him. Reynolds, therefore, driven by his narcissism, has behaved in a particular way which has caused Justin Baldoni to seek to correct that behaviour through legal redress, but also Reynolds is using the legal process in order to assert control over Baldoni and other people. This has started to be known as lawfare, the means of utilising the law perhaps not entirely appropriately in order to get your way. And, surprise, surprise, it's invariably driven by narcissists. One aspect of the ongoing litigation encapsulates this need for control that Reynolds has, but also shows that he is desperate. Recently, he and his wife, collectively known as the Lively Parties, issued subpoenas to AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Those are telecoms companies, and they sought the following: all documents concerning ingoing and ongoing calls or text messages related to and a specified phone number belonging to each of the individual Wayfarer parties, which means Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, Jamie Heath, Steve Saravich, Melissa Nathan, the Agency Group PR LLC, and Jennifer Abel, along with It Ends With Us Movie LLC. Therefore, documents concerning the call logs and text message logs for the phone number belonging to each of the Wayfarer parties, some of their employees, and also non-party individuals, so people who aren't even involved in the litigation, including, but not limited to, call logs, text logs, data logs, and cell site location information. The subpoenas not only seek this information, but do so over a period of multiple years, spanning, in most cases, from December the 1st, 2022 to the present, at least 2 years. This is a blatant attempt by Ryan Reynolds to assert control over his opponents indirectly through the calling of those records. What he's seeking to do is intimidate the Wayfarer parties by suggesting, I'm going to find something out about you by virtue of this discovery request. I say, you have something to hide and I'm going to find it. This not only encapsulates his arrogance, his paranoia that they've been up to no good, but also his misguided and deluded belief that he's going to find something. Now, I've had my fair share of litigation over the years, and I know that when your opponent resorts to doing this, they are in trouble. This is what's commonly referred to as a fishing expedition, which basically means your opponent hasn't got a bastard clue as to what you've actually done, but makes a sweeping request for disclosure or discovery of this nature in order to try and find something. In other words, you've got them on the ropes, and they're scrambling around trying to find something to pin on you. Now, it might be that Justin Baldoni has been engaging in some spicy chat with somebody, and that's completely irrelevant to the issues in the litigation. But Reynolds' expectation is that something will be found that might help him, either in relation to the litigation or just generally, so that there would be pressure placed upon Baldoni so that he might want to bring about a settlement of the case because he doesn't want to reveal, for example, that he's been ringing, I don't know, a sex line or such nonsense like that, or that he regularly orders a pizza from a particularly dubious pizza provider. I'm making up stupid examples, but proving the desperation of what Reynolds is up to. This act is one which clearly exceeds the scope of what ordinarily would be permissible discovery. And this highlights this latest move on the part of Reynolds is desperate, but it shows so much of his behaviour, and by understanding that he's a narcissist, we know why he's doing it. The litigation with Baldoni threatens his need for control. In the course of that litigation, he needs to do something to try and assert control over Baldoni and the other parties. And he does so indirectly, basically doing this. I'm going to get all of your call logs. My expensive lawyers are going to go through them with a fine-tooth comb. We will find something, so watch it. In effect, it's the use of threat and triangulation against Baldoni and the other parties in order to try and nullify the threat to control that the litigation poses. It also demonstrates a sense of entitlement on the part of Reynolds to ask for this disclosure, which clearly is a fishing expedition, and I'd be surprised if the subpoenas were allowed to stand. Indeed, the lawyer acting on behalf of the wayfarer parties makes these very valid points in order to reject this request. In a letter sent by the lawyer writes, "Dear Judge Lehman, as counsel for Wayfarer Studios LLC," and then it lists all of the other parties, collectively the Wayfarer parties, "we write to raise a discovery dispute concerning flagrantly overbroad subpoenas served by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, the Lively parties. Earlier this week, the Lively parties issued subpoenas to cellular providers AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile, seeking all documents concerning ingoing and ongoing calls or text messages related to phone number XXXXX, belonging to each of the individual Wayfarer parties, some of their employees, and various non-party individuals, including, but not limited to, call logs, text logs, data logs, and cell site location information. The subpoenas seek such information over a period of multiple years, in most cases spanning from December the 1st, 2022 to the present. It is hard to overstate how broad, invasive, and atypical these subpoenas truly are. This is civil litigation, not a criminal prosecution, and the Lively parties are not the FBI. Yet the subpoenas seek not only the complete call and text history of each of the targets over a period of several years, no matter who the sender, recipient, or subject matter, but also, over the same period, real-time location information and data logs reflecting, among other things, web browsing history. This would include, of course, materials protected from disclosure by a laundry list of statutes and privileges, among them the attorney-client privilege, the spousal privilege, and the physician-patient privilege. Moreover, the information sought by the subpoenas is wildly disproportionate to the needs of the case and unnecessarily invades the privacy of untold numbers of third parties, including family, friends, business partners, and quite literally any other person with whom any of the targets have communicated with over a period of years. The scope of this disclosure request, the breadth of it, demonstrates a lack of boundary recognition. It shows a sense of entitlement to seek it in the first place. It shows an arrogance because it's not relevant to what is going on between the parties, and this is ably highlighted by counsel on the part of the wayfarer parties. Ordinarily, you might ask, why are they doing this? And you might conclude, well, they're looking for the needle in the haystack, aren't they? Yes, but now you understand that this is part of the necessity of Ryan Reynolds' innate need for control, whereby he will use the law, like many narcissists do, to try and nullify his opponent's threat to his control. That driven by his sense of entitlement, lack of emotional empathy, the absence of accountability, the absence of boundary recognition, and the need to be manipulative, he goes down this route, hiring expensive lawyers to try and browbeat the opposition into submission through this wide and invasive form of issuing of subpoenas. The fact he's doing this shows very clearly that this is a desperate move issued by a man desperate to nullify the threat to control, because not only is he in difficulties within the litigation, but the collateral consequence that arises in the court of public opinion means that he and his wife, who is an extension of him, are getting a hammering. This demonstrates sheer desperation on the part of Ryan Reynolds, and you understand why this is, because you understand that he is a narcissist. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.